20 of us asking the same question of one.
Or dividing us up so we can't.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think anybody here's probably got a problem with your storm sewer or repaving the road. It's the other parts. And so, again, I think it would be far better for all of us if we just ask you questions and you, or whomever, and you direct them to all of us until we're done with our questions.
Question on, is there a copy of a study available about why narrowing road will slow traffic down? What do they base this on? Evidence-based research on that.
Yes, there's all kinds of research on that. Ron or Matt may be able to
That
address
would
that
be
a
really
little
helpful
bit more in
because-
detail.
And where do we get that?
Well, first off, it's a known fact. One of the reasons, if you look at I-380,
And your name is again?
it's Matt Myers.
Thank you.
So if you look at something like Interstate 380, typically engineers use 12-foot lanes, and they accommodate easily up to 80, 85 miles an hour. So the width of the street, the wider it gets, the less friction, usually speeds go up. If you look at narrowing of the streets, and you just look at it, I know you're shaking your head a little bit, but if you come down and actually look at some of the narrowing of the streets, typically you find that people do drive slow. And the thing that's really bad about that is traffic engineers get accused of cooking the books a little bit, because when we go out, we can take radar to the speeds on the street, and we'll set our speed limits according to the speeds, and what happens is the wider speeds kind of keep the higher speed limits. And so normally it's the other way around. You've all talked about the narrowing of the streets. Usually we get the complete opposite. We like to narrow the streets to get the speeds down because we take the radar. And the street's kind of wide. It's not that hard to hit the 40-mile-an-hour mark or higher. So like First Avenue, it's pretty wide. And it has a lot of lanes. So it's very car accommodating. And so the speeds tend to be kind of high about that. And so the studies for that are pretty well documented. You can go in the Federal Highways Office of Safety and kind of look at that kind of mentality of the speed width, and that's kind of where that comes from.
So you're saying it's a human behavior thing?
It can be. Human perception, what you feel comfortable while you're driving, if it's kind of wide open, and you can do whatever you want, and there's not a lot of stopping and going, the wider street can accommodate faster speeds, and people just kind of naturally feel comfortable speeding along the ways. So the lanes on I-380, they're 12 foot.
But
So
we're not
when you get
I-380.
narrow,
Yeah.
but when you get down to a street like this, and you look at something like First Avenue, those types of roads kind of hit that 35 to 45 mile an hour mark. It's not that hard. And when you get into a neighborhood like yours, if you're really looking at a 20-foot wide or less, you can actually see
I
that.
don't have a dog in this hunt at all, so I own a house on Grande Avenue, but on the downside respectability, not
I didn't hear all that.
but I don't live there anymore, but I lived there before they put in the boulevard and after they put in the boulevard, the middle divider in Grande Avenue,
Sure.
which was not there when I bought the house. The traffic was much faster, even though they were blasting up to a stop sign. Before they put that median in the middle of Grand Avenue between 18th at 19th down to 16th, before that was there, the traffic was way faster, and there was no change in any of the traffic control signals or signs or anything like that. In fact, there was less because there used to be a flashing red light up there at that intersection, and they took that out.
So sometimes how a road
It really did
looks,
slow
yeah.
the traffic down when it wasn't a big wide street, when it was two relatively narrow lanes with people parked on it. It sincerely did.
And this isn't your project, the two-way, the one-way conversion, some of the roads are like 3 and 4 lanes wide. And why we say going down the number of lanes and narrowing that down, we feel like that will generate the speed control that we kind of like. And that's kind of fallen what that is just a little bit. Yes, ma'am.
Why are we not considering putting medians in, since that used to be a trolley route, and the medians going all the way up around?
I would say for the most part,
As long as we're throwing stuff out.
Stopped at 20th Street.
Oh, okay, I will, okay.
And I can talk to that.
Thanks for correcting me.
Okay.
We could do a boulevard, but what we want to do is really limit the impact to those existing properties, particularly on the south side where we're proposing the sidewalk. So if you put a boulevard in, that's going to actually push out the roadway. It's going to push out where we can place that sidewalk. So more than likely, gotta get the sidewalk further away from the road where we have it now. It's gonna impact more trees, it's gonna impact those nice planters that people have out front. So taking those into account, narrowing the street, you still get that effect of the side friction to slow people down. We can get that sidewalk put in while holding the north curb line and limit the impact to the trees, which, you know, you have lots of mature trees in that neighborhood and really a signature part of that neighborhood. So our staff goal is to meet the council goals of improving walkability in the city, connectivity for bicyclists and pedestrians, but limit the impact to those individual properties. So that's why we narrow the road.
But you're making an assumption that it's going to improve walkability.
Do you ride a bike?
Yes.
And those bump outs, they help bicycle riders? You've got to be kidding.
I think it creates
I
a
mean,
real
you got
dangerous place.
bicyclists weaving in and out of those silly bump outs.
It actually does.
You can
I
slow
lived
down
in
a
Washington DC for 20 years on a similar street, and when I came back, I wanted the exact same thing, canopy of trees over, and I found this neighborhood, it's the best neighborhood in Cedar Rapids. Just without question, it's the best neighborhood. And what you're going to do is going to change the character and nature of our neighborhood.
I bought my property because nobody could walk around it. I bought it because it was a private estate, and I don't think you have the right to change that. I don't need people walking in front of my property.
You said you had feedback from neighbors that this is why you're doing some of these things. How many people complain about the sidewalk situation in this neighborhood?
But there wasn't enough.
That was
space
more
to
of
walk.
the feedback that we've gotten on other paving for progress projects throughout the city.Ose are concerns we see consistently.
But not
From-
everybody.
No, your slides don't show a historic neighborhood like
You need to
that.
ask us. For one thing, I live on the, I guess it's the north side of Grande Avenue, where there's a 4-foot sidewalk. There's no congestion, there are no problems. I would like to know what kind of a traffic study that you've done of how many people walk there every day, how many people have had problems, how many people have had complaints about that. Because I can tell you, I'm not in my yard, and everybody here can laugh, because they've seen me in all kinds of clothing and all kinds of weather.
Didn't
You know,
recognize you.
And yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
And they've seen me, you know, every season of the year out there puttering around in my front yard. I have never, ever seen a problem out there, and I would like to see a study of some sort that tells me that A, there's tons of traffic on that street that are in trouble, and then B, that those sidewalks are somehow an issue. Those sidewalks, if anything, I would say, fine, you want to widen my sidewalk to 6 feet, knock yourselves out. If you think it needs to be 6 feet wide, just go right ahead. But why fix something that's not broken? There are needs in this community. I see it every day when I drive between here and West Coast Road. And I'm sitting here every day going, why are they getting all over our neighborhood when, you know, and building things that don't need to be built when there are other needs? We live in a beautiful street.
And I am
Main
talking,
road.
Can we go back to the traffic calming,
Yes.
and the widening of the road? Are there any other traffic calming engineering solutions that you consider that are not, road narrowing?
Well, one was suggested, you mentioned one, didn't you?
Yes,
Four-way stop. I'm sorry, I was looking like you were expecting me to say
That's
something,
fine.
but you mentioned
No,
one.
I just was discussing the fact that if there are complaints about speed, it's generally people coming from 19th going down towards Beaver, and they've got 3 blocks to pick up speed. If you put in a 4-way stop at Grand and Forest,
Exactly.
I think you
Exactly.
slow them down.
Yeah.
Does it
And
have-
there's every day, there's about 5 or 6 near misses anyway, with people pulling out from Forest.
Yeah,
Everybody
Yeah,
raises
yeah.
their hand if you've almost been hit at
Yeah.
that intersection.
yeah,
Yeah, every
That's
single one of our
because
cars.
speed-
So,
Forest don't
to
stop.
answer your question, I just wanted to bring up that she did mention the 4-way stop.
I just
Other
thought,
measures,
as
we
a,
look at
just
other
as a
measures,
proposing an alternative to
Yes.
narrowing, you know.
And it's
in
so
terms of
inexpensive
cost.
to do that. It's so inexpensive to do that.
Well, and then they're not gonna spend, I mean, if you want to add in a bike lane, don't narrow the road, that doesn't make any sense to me. If you want to take away the parking on the other side of the street, put the bike lane in where the parking would have been and leave the street
Just
with
draw a
that
line.
is.
Just draw a line.
No,
I
what
mean,
if-
that would make more sense to me, because if you narrow the road and then put in a bike lane, you're really asking for for trouble. I see it all the time on Beaver, I drive that every day.
Yep.
Now, all of you have comment sheets, right? And I know that we're kind of ganging up on the sidewalks, and we're talking about some other stuff, but if you have something that we're not getting to, make sure you write those down, so we don't run out of time. Because some of you may have very individual issues to your property that you might want to bring up, you might want to make sure that you write those down. There's also an email on that sheet as well if you want to send that.
And here's the form. Some of you came in later after we started the group meeting. And on the back side of the form here, there's an area to write in your comments. So, that's where you can do that at, as well as a survey on accessibility issues here on the front.
I think we need to understand also that this was voted on by the city council. This is part of the Total Streets project. This isn't these folks here tonight doing this. This was voted on and approved by our city council. This is not just this neighborhood, it's every neighborhood in the city that's undergoing this. Everybody's getting this, not just us.
Yeah, if you
So,
want,
so.
Do you think that's a good thing?
No, no one's suggesting.
No, I'm not suggesting that at all. Our elected officials made this decision and voted on it.
yeah, now, I want to point to that there is a section of that policy that's on our website. You can go to it and you can see a lot of that, and the background that's behind that too. Absolutely.
Well, and I'm, and I don't think a lot of us are that naive. I mean, I've sat on the food zones committee, just like
Oh,
and
sure.
I know all about walkability and things like that, and I understand what you're saying. So
There's
just
a-
communication.
There's a lady in the back that's had her hand up for a while.
I came in late, so I know I've missed some of this. I just want, I have a lot of emotion about some of the aspects of this, but I want to start positively and say that I'm really grateful that you're coming in, like the parts of the curb and the street are now meeting, and it's time to fix the street, and I think that's
That
such
was
a
a comment made to me.
yeah, that's such a great, responsible way to spend money. It's time. But I just want to also go on record and say what we have is lovely. I grew up in the house I live in. I chose to move back to my childhood home because I feel like I live in a park, and we love to sit on our front porch and watch the dog parade across the street. And I'm so grateful to live there, and so I just want to respectfully say thank you for fixing the street, but I feel like some of this other stuff is such a great example of misusing funds when we have so many other streets that need what we're getting with the fixing of the street, so.
Ma'am, you want?
You talk about slowing traffic. Are you changing the speed limit, or will the speed limit still be 30 miles per hour? Because if you're really interested in changing the speed of the road, that would certainly be one of the ways to do it.
That is a way. We kind of get hit and miss when we change the sign to get an actual impact to the speed. Really changing the road physically, that is an idea. She mentioned the median having some sort of impact. How a neighborhood looks, it definitely has an impact on speed. Absolutely. Going from 30 to 25, I don't know if I can really sit here and tell you that you would see the difference, actually.
And I will add in, I would also be a proponent of a four-way stop at Forest. I think that's such a smart move to slow down traffic. And we
Now,
have heard lots of
notice I'm not
screeching
writing this
tires.
down, so
Yeah.
please, if there's stuff like that, please write that down. Okay?
Or the people on Forest don't stop. I mean, literally, they just sail on through, and it's a really dangerous intersection.
Well,
But, I think that you're,
Well. Let's give people some time, there is a slight genuflection.
yeah, well, there is school time. Yeah. But, I think you believe you're bringing us something that's positive, and the street that Storm Sewers is, but what you're really going to do is diminish our neighborhoods. And that's a big deal, this is where we live.
I think if there's
And
some
I'm
way
not
to
actually,
propose to.
I totally get the emotions. This is touching something very personal for you. It really is a very personal decision. And, today, the format that we created this forum and trying to get your feedback, I don't know how else to really to tell you that there's a better way to gain this feedback, but I think this is probably the first way that we can get it back.
But see, once you've already drawn up plans and then you ask for our input, it's already a fait accompli. And it's just the wrong way to go about it. You should have come and talked to us 6 months ago before you started drawing up plans.
Yeah, for a year.
Now, the thing that's being said is, we like to do a study for the sidewalk. It's pretty hard to do something that doesn't exactly exist. I mean, this is the sidewalk is something, it's not even there. So what would we get if it was there? Would people voluntarily want to walk on that side?
And
I
that's
don't know
another
if we can
assumption.
actually
Who cares if
accomplish
they
that.
walk on
It's
the,
true.
They
they don't
need
need one. The point is that.
But you haven't talked to one person that owns property on that side.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I talked to
people that don't live there
everyone,
walk on the right
and
side.
May I say
everyone
something,
is
please?
opposed.
May I say something, please, really quick? I want to address, this is a conceptual layout. We have not done any preliminary plans to this point. We haven't done any detailed plans to this point. It is a conceptual layout trying to address and balance community goals that have been set for us versus the neighborhood goals. And so that's what we brought with this concept. That's why we're here today, is to hear your feedback.
However, I will say, I realize that you're saying emotional, but there needs to be a balance there, that we're not just a bunch of emotional people. You have some real brains sitting here. And so I want you to know that we do understand things like engineering and research and traffic patterns and walkability and livability. And that we chose to live there. And yes, that's somewhat of an emotional thing, but we are pretty smart. And so as we talk, let's not diminish things by saying, well, no, this is emotional. Because it's not just emotional. It's we're pretty smart. So just let's kind of keep that up there, okay?
Who has the
We've
final,
actually
who
seen
has
this.
the final say? It's a very
I'm not
emotional
assuming you weren't
issue.
smart. I'm thinking you're
Yes,
thinking
Mr.
of
Cash.
One of the major issues on Grand Avenue is flash flooding, and a lot of it comes down Park Terrace and Woodland and onto that part of Grand east of 19th Street, and then goes on over really into Mound View. And so part of my thought is that rather than laying a ribbon of concrete, that pavers be used, and that would not only slow traffic down, it would also serve to bolster the absorption of rainwater. That would add to the capabilities you're trying to build in with the storm sewers. So I've advocated this for a while, and it seems to me that this is a good situation to maybe experiment with that in the city and see how well it would work. So permeable pavers, slowing down traffic, helping with flash flooding. Those are things that I would be concerned about.
Thank you. And the storm sewer would still be needed to help carry that water away even with the But yes, thank you for your feedback.
I understood you to say that the sidewalk on the south side of the street would be next to the present curb. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which side of the curb is going to be on?
It'll be behind the curb on the edge of the
North
sidewalk
side,
will
east,
be
south
right.
side.
It'll be on the grass side of the curb. That's where the edge of the
So how are you
sidewalk
going
is.
to narrow down the street?
What's that?
How are you going to narrow the street?
You push the south curb towards the north.
Take
South
out-
curb
take
will
out
be.
one-
You're going to get
one
more
lane.
front yard.
And bump outs like they have.
You take out a width of the street.
Most of the bump outs are on the
You
north
got any
side.
engineers working on this thing?
What's that?
You got any engineers working on this thing?
Absolutely.
It just doesn't look like it.
Yes.
The same ones that are working on the flood control down there? Thank you
We're all
very
city
much.
staff.
One other comment I'd make about the sidewalk is that it's not strictly tied to where the existing curb is. It's because we're making every effort to avoid trees as much as possible. So there's a couple locations. One of them is the block between Woodland and Park Terrace, where we have some large trees that are near the curb, and we were out there looking at it with the city arborist. So in that location, we'd swing the sidewalk out closer so that, like, the back edge of the sidewalk would be where the existing curb is, so that we wouldn't bother those trees that are there. And there's another location where we're swinging around to avoid some trees as well.
Could save money if we just eliminate the
Just
sidewalk.
don't.
That's true.
Already an adequate sidewalk coming in.
Yes, ma'am.
Who gets the final say so on this project?
Well, eventually the council will file the plans, there's a public hearing on it, so. once
I
we
mean,
have
we're
that-
giving feedback to you, which I know may be
Well,
unnecessarily,
what-
we're saying some things that maybe you have no control over, so I'm wondering who has control over
Is
it.
it worth it?
Ultimately, for every single project that's bid by the city, there's a public hearing for that project, and there's a time then for you to comment on the
But
project.
the council has the final say so then, is that?
For approving, yeah.
So if
It has to
we
be a
want
council,
to
it has to have a
eliminate-
resolution to file.
If we were wanting to eliminate the sidewalk proposal,
But
to
encourage
whom
you
would
to
we
fill
have
out-
to talk to? I mean, but who actually says, okay, we're not going to do this? Who actually says that?
Ultimately, it would be the council who would say, no, we're going to forego this part of the complete streets policy and not do sidewalk in this.
So the proposal you're going to
Right,
make.
just so you know, we have an infrastructure committee meeting every month. There's 3 members of the council on it. We will need
Who in the council is on that?
Ann Poe, Scott Wilson, and Ralph Russell are the 3 on the infrastructure committee.
Okay.
And we report back to the infrastructure committee the comments that we get at public meetings. So, we take your comments, unvarnished comments, propose them, let them know what the feedback is with you.
Right. I'm just wondering if anybody at any point has said to them, I understand that you want to have this blanket policy for the city because we want to have some uniforming the way that we do this, but you also have to balance this. If you want to talk about balance, you also have to balance that with the characters of the neighborhood and also the preservation and historical aspects. As opposed to, yeah, it'd be great to have this ADA sidewalk, but nobody's ever going to use it, and we completely destroy a historic neighborhood so that they could say, yeah, we comply. Do we have to put in a request for a permit to forego this? Or, is there going to be some kind of a big battle because we don't have a sidewalk over there?
But the ADA doesn't require sidewalk on both sides of the street. It requires a
They just put
6-foot
one out on
sidewalk.
Beaver.
So,
They didn't put one out on Beaver.
Right, so I'm just wondering where that comes into play.
I'd like to get clarification on something. That regardless of what our comments are that we're going to submit here, your department is going to move forward proposing that the sidewalk is going to be on that side of the street, right?
Unless we're directed otherwise, yes.
From whom? So whatever we say here is not going to sway you from presenting a plan that has a
If
sidewalk.
the infrastructure committee wants to come back and say, no, we want you to not put sidewalk along that, then
What days do they meet?
directed by council.
When do they meet?
It's the 3rd Tuesday of.
They met last night, I was
At the
there.
City Services Center. At 4 o'clock.
Say that again.
3rd Tuesday of every month at the City Services Center.
What's the time frame for this?
I'm sorry, 4 p.m.
What's the time frame for this?
Glenn, what's our time frame on this project? Tentatively set for reconstruction next year.
But
If it was to move forward immediately, yes.
For the final decision, when is there? do they
Well, no, we got to
have
get to it before that. When is this going to be presented to your committee?
At the August meeting, we'll present back when I do the progress of.
Okay, so you're, at the August meeting, you are going to tell Ann, Scott, and Ralph that we need to have a sidewalk on the south side.
August,
No, I'm
giving us
going to
1
report
month.
that the neighborhood is pretty much unanimously against having sidewalk.
So we're clear on that one. When do you expect that your plan will be proposed to you?
Well, we talked briefly about the elements at July meeting as to what we're going to be.
But they're going to approve it, your plan, and then it's going to go to council?
It goes to council well after, we'll talk about this at the infrastructure. We still have to do the detailed plan. Maybe, I don't think we have any easements to give, but we do, temporary easements. That takes quite a bit of time to get those done.
I don't know what quite a bit of time means.
6 to 8 months it can be, depending.
So you don't expect that this will get to council for 6 to 8 months?
At the very earliest, yes.
Okay.
Quick question on the sewers. If somebody has a sprinkler system, will they be notified in time, prior to like the ground being too hard or whatever to move it? Will they get notified to remove those? Because some people do have sprinkler systems towards the parkway.
Yes, we tried to. It'd be great if you, in your comments back to us, told us that yes, you have a sprinkler system within the right of way that would need to be relocated, so we can let you know.
The sewer going on the north or the south side of the street?
We have
Primarily on the north side would be the main run.
That's what we looked at so far, but we haven't settled on any alignment at this point.
I'm just figuring it's us and south.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's the north or the south, we'll have storm sewer on one side and we'll have what's called subdrain on the other side. So there'll be some drainage to get water out.
So we will need to move that then.
More than likely, it goes right out to our river.
So maybe you could explain to me how much this is going to cost us personally, putting sidewalks in.
Well, the current assessment policy and given the length of the lots on the south side, I hate to speculate.
Speculate, give me a ballpark.
We do have a graduated scale once it gets over, I think, Glenn, what is it, 100 feet?
I can give some numbers. Yeah, after 100 feet, the graduated scale kicks in. So I just kind of ran some preliminary numbers, and this would be assuming that we don't have to make a lot of long driveway adjustments, which I'm not anticipating that we will. But for example, a lot that was 100 feet long, based on the current assessment policy, it's my understanding that that is possibly undergoing some review.
Yes, it is undergoing review. And just so you know, the current policy is property owner pays for half of the 4-foot walk. And the city pays for the other half of the 4-foot walk, and in this case, the additional.
How come the city doesn't shovel their back?
Numbers first.
Yeah, let's get numbers. I'd like everybody to
So
know
for
what
a
it's gonna cost.
100-foot lot, I projected the assessment to be about $1,100. About
How much?
$1,100
For what length?
for about a 100-foot lot. About $10.50 a foot.
And over 100?
For a 150-foot lot, I projected about $1,300. Should be about $8.50 a foot. For a 200-foot lot, it's more like about $7 a foot, which would be, for something, like I said, for something just over 200, about $1,400.
So that's the initial year, right?
No, that's the total
That's
cost.
the total.
Okay, and then there's
Total
no
cost
cost
that can be
after
spread
that.
out over 10 years.
Correct. You can choose to pay off your assessment when you get it as a whole, or you can choose to pay it off over 10 years with interest rates set by the council.
What would you recommend?
It's ultra cheap.
What would you recommend when you already made it clear that you want to involve everybody here in on this and get their opinions, when you know, because I talked to them, that 100% of the people that live on the south side of Grande Avenue do not want a sidewalk, where do we go from here? Because it's very obvious what you're going to present.
As I said, we're going to present that
You've
it's
been
not
asking them-
unanimous that the south side of the street does not want sidewalks.
And now that you know that everybody, which you can report back and tell your people that were so interested, now that you know that everybody's opposed to it, where would you suggest we go?
Well, if you're not satisfied with staff reporting back your concerns, you can talk to the council directly. You can talk to the public works director. I would probably start with the public works director with your comments, and then move up if you're not satisfied with that. But we will be absolutely reporting exactly what the feedback is we're getting.
I'm not trying to be difficult. The problem with reporting is just this. We had the people out from the city 3 times because they were putting a new curb cut through the rear gates of our property. On Garden Road. They didn't do what they said they would. We have now a situation where they removed it. They promised they would put it in. We showed them the original drawings. They saw how it was and they took it out. We now have no curb on the side of our driveway. So all the dirt comes down because they didn't carry it from the top of the curb. Who's checking all of this? And they've done it on every single one on Grande Avenue. I have never, Garden Drive, I've never seen that done in any other place in my life. Who's checking? Because it's obviously not correct.
The detail where the driveway aprons meet the back of the curb is a funky detail that we've never seen anywhere in this city or elsewhere.
It was only done because it was cheap.
Just an odd way to do it, and it was rushed. It was done in December last year. They were trying to wrap things up because they got a late start and whatever, and they had a window, some decent weather, and they came in, poured a whole bunch of aprons all in a few days' time, and they're all.
So we had 3 meetings and it went nowhere.
Yeah, just the follow through was not what we were.
Was not. Good.
And I've been called, I've talked to. Well,
Nobody does everything. We've talked to you.
And I filled out forms and nobody's called me back and
Nobody responds, nobody does anything.
Who's the new public works director?
Jen Winter.
Is she here?
No, she's not. She's on vacation.
One other, in terms of providing feedback, again, there's the survey forms here. There's also an email address that's listed, so that would be one way to get the feedback in. It's written down here, but it's the email address is page-progress at cedar-rapids.org.
Those go to admins and on to me, and then, we compile that information and present it to the public works director and to the council.
And there's always the old-fashioned way, written letters, that could go to the public works director or whoever.
I just want to say thank you for your efforts and for the presentation so that all of us can be on the same page now. We have the information we need to go forward, and hopefully we can resolve the issues on this project properly and get a good end result. So thank you.
And I think there is consensus that we're all really excited about the curbs and the streets
Much
and
needed.
the water drainage. We are, am I right? I mean, everyone is 100% excited and grateful and thankful for that. So.
Thank you.
Before you get
Could we also say we're not in favor of the roundabout?
Absolutely.
or the bump out.
Or pretty much anything else.
The traffic pattern at the top, I mean, I've lived in that area for 31 years, and I'm surely not alone in how many years I've lived up there. The traffic pattern at the top of Grande Lake, I mean, I just almost started laughing. I'm sorry, really?
Yeah.
Terrible traffic jams every day at 5 o'clock.
Where's that?
It's Grande Lake. Yeah, you don't even know where it is, yeah.
Grande
You know,
Lake.
past my house, oh, shut up. Anyway.
Both cars.
I mean,
Yeah,
find
that's
a
a
place
tough
that
one.
really needs a roundabout. I love roundabouts, knock yourselves out. I think they're great. But for heaven's sake, that's like not the right place for a roundabout. I don't screw that up.
Basically,
Grand-
putting a roundabout in a historic neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a dead end.
Instead of a four-way stop at Grand Forest, put the roundabout in there.
You know, if there's a pocket rocket going up Grand Avenue, as there frequently is, and we have to see that house. If there's a pocket rocket going up Grand Avenue, he's gonna fly over the roundabout and hit kill me. That's what he's doing.
That happened in Dubuque, you know.
So is that the consensus of the group, that you're going to build a roundabout?
No. I don't want
No, a roundabout at Forest and
No, I think the
Grant.
consensus is a four-way stop.
If the consensus is the four-way stop at Forest and Grand, it's so much less expensive.
Much less expensive.
What funds we have on things we don't need. There are plenty of places in this town that need sidewalks. All you gotta do is look. How about 22nd Street between Wiley Boulevard Southwest and all those little trailer parks and stuff over there? I work over there, I see people walk up and down there all day long, walk I mean, go take our sidewalk and put it over there.
See Avenue Northwest, there's no sidewalk.
We already have a roundabout at the park.
Exactly, C Avenue. Yeah, there's a roundabout.
You know what, thank you for your comments. We'll have staff available at the individual spots.
You earned your money tonight.
Thank you.
And excuse me, anybody that doesn't know me and isn't on my email list, could you come up and give me your name, phone number, and email list so that we can be in contact further about this?
Next, George, same here.
Hi, do you folks have any particular questions or?